22 years in community pharmacy. That's a long time. Hi everyone, my name is Osama. I'm a community pharmacist working in England. Welcome to my channel. Today I'd like to talk about the years that I spent in community pharmacy, 22 years to be exact, and I'd like to talk about some of the experiences and lessons that I learned along the way. I thought that would make for an interesting video. So if you had told me a year ago that I would be leaving community pharmacy, I thought you were crazy. So when I first qualified as a pharmacist all the way back in August 2000, all I've ever known is community pharmacy. Well, I did a brief stint in hospital for 6 months, but that was during my pre-reg, so if you just ignore that, it has been all community pharmacy all the way. So when I first qualified, I worked for about 3 months as a relief manager, and then I became manager of my first branch, and I was there for a couple of years. Then I moved on to my second branch, where I remained for the next 18 years. So let's talk about some of the sort of lessons that I've learned during those 22 years. I'm going to divide the video into 5 separate sections and we'll talk about them each one at a time. So I'd say the sort of first and foremost thing that I learned during the 22 years of community pharmacy was that the patients, the customers, whatever you want to call them, they really do value someone to just talk to. You know, if you can lend them a sympathetic ear, you know, a lot of the time all people want is reassurance, and just that simple act of listening to them, you won't believe how far it goes in just helping that patient out. And you know, and they never forget it. They will always sort of value that time that you gave up to try and speak to them or try and help them. So that's, I'd say, far and away the biggest takeaway sort of conclusion from my career in community pharmacy. So this concept of giving value to customers actually reminds me of a famous saying. So there's a guy called Saint Francis of Assisi, historical figure, and he famously said, "Remember that when you leave this earth, you cannot take with you what you have received, you can only take what you have given." So I think that saying, you know, it's quite a good summary really of my own personal feelings about giving patients a sympathetic ear really. And I think I didn't realise, it's like I turned up for work day after day like we all do, and you don't actually realise the impact that you have on your patients in the community until you end up leaving. I mean, when I ended up leaving, towards the last few days, the number of customers and people who were just sort of upset and disappointed and you know, that I was leaving, you know, it was really quite humbling. And again, you just don't realise the impact that you have on the people around you. It's quite remarkable really. So, you know, it was quite a humbling experience really. So the next point that I would like to talk about is that building trust and relationships, whether that's with your patients or customers or your work colleagues, it takes time and there's no shortcut to it. You just have to put in the time and the effort and have to grind away to build those long-lasting relationships. I think naturally speaking, people, they do have their guard up if they don't know you, but then the more they get to know you and the more sort of that you can win them over, that's how you build the long-lasting relationships and business partnerships. I mean, when I first came to my pharmacy, to use that again and as an example, I was quite new to the village, you know, that where I worked, and people, they didn't know me, you know, and it took me a good few years to like grind away, give people value, build up that relationship. You know, and then it is worth it in the end, but it's just, you have to put that time and effort in, there's no other way around it. So number 3, you're only as good as those people around you. So again, I was quite fortunate in my situation in that the team that I had were quite a decent team, to be honest with you. I'd worked with them hell of a lot of years, sort of 20 years, a lot of them, and we all sort of broadly had the same sort of outlook on how we should run the pharmacy. So I think if you're working with a crew that if their values aren't aligned with your values, I think it's going to be difficult, you know. So it's if you can get a great team around you, and again build up that sort of bond and that sort of team network, it just goes a million miles to sort of helping you achieve your aims in the pharmacy. I mean, I was quite fortunate in that my sort of team, they sort of, you know, trusted me, and if I said we need to do A, B and C, you know, they didn't really question it. And I think it was because of that sort of tight working relationship we had. We were consistently one of the better performing pharmacies in our area. So yeah, definitely make sure you have a strong team around you. So next point, and I probably can't emphasize this enough, is to have a good working relationship with your area manager. It's absolutely vital. I mean, I produced some of my best work when I had a good working relationship with my area manager. Basically, just don't piss them off, really. So get all your deadlines met, and make sure you're hitting your targets consistently. You know, basically you just want to sort of stay off the radar for your area manager, and you only want to be on the radar for all the right reasons. Luckily, I only had a couple of area managers that I didn't really get on with or see eye to eye, and it wasn't really a good place to be, really. You just cannot beat having a good, settled relationship with your area manager. It's vital, and I highly recommend you try and do the same. So last point is that the goalposts will always move, whether it's a community pharmacy or any other walk of life. So one thing I've realised over 2 decades of working in that sector is that the goalposts always change, they're always moving. When I first qualified in 2000, community pharmacy was a very static sector. There was hardly any change, anything happening, and then bit by bit things started to happen. So we had the morning after pill coming over the counter, we had electronic prescriptions coming, we had MURs, the NMS service. It was all a cumulative change that came bit by bit, so it wasn't too bad for me. I could adapt to things. But yeah, there's no point moaning about it. There is a lot of changes coming. The goalposts will always move, but you know what? Seize the day. If you're a young community pharmacist, it's a great place to be, really, because there's so many opportunities to fulfill yourself professionally compared to when I qualified, really, because it really was very much just a binary supply function. So again, there's no point moaning, just seize the day and get on with it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. I didn't want to make it too long. I just thought of 5 things off the top of my head that I thought would make for a good reflective account of my time spent in community pharmacy. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anything that you think I left off, or you'd like to comment on it. It'd be great. But anyway, thanks very much for watching until the end, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks very much. Bye.